welcome. And we're not on the island today, as you can see, because the weather won't let us be there. So we've brought the island into the center here. And what I want to talk about today is two travelers from afar who came to the island, and I found them both. Now, I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about fossils. And we don't usually find them on the island. Not on the island, on the beach. The first one is this. Now, most people, when they see what used to be a lot of clay, mud, and stuff like that, would just pass it by. But when I saw these things, that, and that, and there's some other stuff here, but I saw them. And what they are parts of what's called a crinoid. And crinoids lived approximately 480 million years ago. There wasn't a lot of life back then. Everything was in the ocean, and this was there. And you can see other little things that were growing with it, but these, I call them chiclets. If you remember the little white mint chiclets that they used to have, I don't know if they still have them. And what it was is they would stack, if you can make this at home, actually stack them up, and they'd get about so high. And then on the top, they would have all of these kind of tentacles, if you will. Now, that sounds like I described a plant, but this was an animal, and still is. What it was, today they're called sea lilies, and there are 600 species of them that are alive today. I mean, that's amazing, from 480 years ago. So they were stacked like that, and why they look like this is they absorbed calcium from seawater, much like a snail, or even a lobster or a crab. And the thing is, they build themselves up on these little stems. So they're like this, and that's how they feed. And they're not like soft either. I mean, they're kind of like hard because they're using calcium. But they would go back and forth in these little feather appendages and stuff, and they would just go like that and eat. They didn't move. They were attached to rocks or whatever. And you find these things. Now, I have a pretty good idea where this came from, because I know the mud, and I know these things in it. And up on the shore, this could have been on the New Brunswick side, it could have been on the Quebec side, but there are places up there on the beaches, but I'm not saying where you find these. And I've been trying now with 2 different governments to get it to be a protected natural area. I haven't heard back yet, but Nature New Brunswick has been in touch with me about it. So the whole idea is this is what these are, and to find these, and they were on the beach over at the island, low tide, stuck in the sand. But the minute I saw this, it attracted me, because what this basically is mud. The darkness in it is because of the carbon from organic stuff, so it darkens the mud. And this is very, very old. Probably a good 400, maybe 300 million years old. And this is the artifacts that we find. So you have this fossil, and then you have these 2 fossils, and you have bits and pieces and stuff all around. And this will be here on display eventually. So that's the first one I found. I'll leave it here so you can see it. Then I was walking the beach again at low tide, and my eyes caught this one. And that's coral. Now, you could argue that, well, 300 million years ago, when you had the sandstone formations over there, this could have been living there. Yeah. Coral in itself is 535 million years old, which is incredible. And we still have it. If you look at a map of the world and look at the coral in it, the Caribbean is totally made of this. Indonesia is totally made of this. The Great Coral Reef in Australia is made of this, and it goes around mostly the equatorial zone between 45 north and 45 south, mostly near the equator. And what you have here are these little holes with, in some respects, you can almost like see teeth coming out, but they're not teeth. And this is the head. And again, like these, stuff would float by, set down on, and these would go and be done. And this area here, you can see actually, because, well, you can see it underneath here, but this is the columns. And again, very good detail in here. Right there, look at that. And you can almost see how in these striations here, how food and water would go up and down, just like a tree. But this is an animal. And of course, back then, the differences weren't that great, except for chlorophyll. So here you have the internal structure of these corals, which you don't normally see. You normally see the stuff up here. So the whole idea, it's very interesting that these two, from the dawn of time, 535 million years ago, the ancestors of this, 480 years ago, and this could be original here, were living, and that was the life on Earth. Now, it's just junk, but not in my mind. Anyway, this is what you find. Come to the island, maybe you'll find something.